back to the channel, guys. Behind me is Dustin's truck, and that's going to be the other project that we're starting to work on this weekend. So, kind of going to go into a little bit of a detailed background on why I'm working on this truck and what we're doing to it. So, this is my good buddy Dustin's truck. It's a '05 Ram 2500 quad cab short bed that it started out as a 6-speed truck that has slowly progressed into kind of a fast street truck. So we think. We haven't had it out on the street yet, but he bought this truck, and it was a stock turbo that had 100% overs with a 10 mil CP3. It was just a mix match setup that was smoky and just wasn't put together right. So a friend introduced Dustin to me and got with me, and we started ordering parts for it. And started out, we did a second gen swap with a S464. I believe it was a 6483.9, and he had that for a couple years. We ended up we pulled the 6-speed out of it and rebuilt it and put a clutch in it that was going to hold the power that he was wanting to make. And shortly after that, it started. He decided he wanted to do more power and didn't want to use the standard anymore. So we decided to swap in a built 48 that was a friend of his. They just swapped trans. He took his 6-speed and he took his auto, and we built it and put it in. And shortly after that, the thrust bearing in the engine gave away. So that's one of them things that bad luck, and it happens. So, but anyway, that's getting to the point. After we did the build auto, he decided to pull the engine out, and we went through it, and he got a set of Corilla rods and a girdle and all that, and we did new bearings, new rings, still using the same stock pistons in it. It's got a little over 200,000 miles on it, and the cylinder's still measured good, and we're still holding a good tolerance. So we just put new rings and bearings in, and the rods and girdle, and put it back in. But when we put it back in, he decided he wanted to do bigger injectors, bigger turbo. So it led to forced inductions 476, one of their custom 93 millimeter turbine wheels, set of 250% extra injectors, and a 12 millimeter pump from them as well. So got it all done, and this was still had that in there. That was still on ARP 2000s, the lower grade ARP head studs. So we got it all done. Took it up to Firepunk to have it dyno tuned, because I don't have the software. I don't have the HP software to tune them, and he wanted to get a good dyno number. So we took it up there, and end of the day made 1,096 before it started dropping rail pressure, and real happy with that. That was a good number, and brought it back. But when we did that, we tried to get it to build boost out in the parking lot, and it just wasn't happening. It needed a little bit of a looser stall, so we ended up pulling the trans out, sending the converter back to Garin, because this is also a Garin built transmission, and sent that converter back to them. They gave us the stall we wanted, put it back in, and went and made one good hard pull on the street and lifted the head. So that's where we are now. I've got the head off of it. It's laying here on the floor, but we're not going to use this head. He bought a ported head that has brand new manly valves and a good ZZ Fab side draft intake. So, and at the same time, we're also changing the turbo setup a little bit. We're going to go with a competition style manifold. Still using the 476, but we're going to a T6 housing instead of a T4. Still using that 93 turbine wheel, and going to get that all back together and see how it runs in. Might try and get him to dyno it again and see what power we pick up just off of that. But after we get the head done, it's going back to Firepunk to get a the wiring harness is all tucked away. They're going to do a battery delete on the passenger side, and then also going to do shock tower deletes. So that's what we're going to do this weekend. But tonight we're just going to clean the block up because the head is still at the shop where I work. I still got to O-ring it, and we're taking the freeze plugs out that are inside underneath the valve cover and drilling and tapping them and putting regular pipe plugs in. So just kind of a precautionary thing in case coolant pressure gets too high and it blows one of those plugs out. You don't want coolant going back into your oil. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to clean up this block and get it ready for the new head. So I'll put you on a time lapse and update you when we're done. Guys, got that block surface. Still have to get up in here a little bit. That's another little thing that some people forget about is if you have dirt up in here, it'll keep the head from seating right. So this can be a good leak spot if you don't clean this out. So we still got that to clean up yet. Just took a little buffing wheel. And you just want to use light pressure. You don't want to use a ton of pressure because you're not looking to take off any material. You're just looking to take off that old gasket that was there. So got that all nice and clean. And I'll get some brake clean and some good microfibers and wipe this down. And we'll spray down in the holes for the head studs and clean them out. And might take a tap and run through them. But other than that, ready to go. We still have to get, there's a dowel that goes in here that we have to get out of the old head and put it back in the block, but other than that, looking good. We'll update you on round 2 probably this weekend. What's happening, guys? Today is day 2 of working on Dustin's truck. So this is actually his new cylinder head. So we're going to work on it for a little bit. Today we're O-ringing it. That's what this jig is for. Right here, bolt this on the head and it cuts the O-ring in to the cylinder head, and we're going to put that in and so we can take it home this weekend and put it on. So starting out here, we want to make sure that this is good and tight and it's seated in here. And we're going to flip it over. It's going to sit here on the table. You always want to make sure that these surfaces are clean. If you got any kind of dirt or debris underneath this surface, the head surface, or the surface that the cutter sits on, it's going to throw our measurements off and the rings aren't going to sit flat. So this is the cutting tool. It's actually a kit that you can buy. It's a BHJ kit that it's around $2,500, I think, for the cutter, the board, and that's all you get. But these have got this little knife in here that cuts the head. So we'll get this sitting in here, and I'll show you how to set it up so that we don't ruin the head on the first try. They're just held in by these little screws. You just screw them down and do your own thing. So on this cutting tool, there's a little dial indicator here that each one, there's notches on here, and each one is a thousandths. So, and there's big notches on there that indicate 5. So you want to turn this to the right. That raises the cutting tool off the cylinder head. And you want to go until it's not cutting at all. Like, don't put any pressure down. Just bring it down so you're not cutting anything. It's about right there. and then we'll bring it down one. And you want to keep taking it down 1/1000th until it just scrapes the surface. That was a little too far. So right there is good. Now I've got it set on 5. I got it sitting on a big notch, so that's 5. So we want to take it. Our first cut is usually going to be around 20 to 25 thousandths, depending on where we want the screw to end up being. Around 32 thousandths, 30 to 32 thousandths on each one. So that gives us, we use an 041, a 41 thousandths wire. That gives us a little bit of protrusion, so it seats good in that head gasket. Alright, so at 20, I'm going to make a cut. You go until it gets easy. Like, you don't want a lot of, it shouldn't take very much pressure at all to cut this. These are pretty sharp. So, we'll take it back out. Take the tool back out. And we got this dial indicator here that'll measure the gap, or measure the cut in the head. It's about 20, 21. Yeah, between 20 and 21, so we're good there. So we measured the first one. We know this head's flat, it's been decked. So we're good to go ahead and cut the rest of them, and we'll check them after we're done and make sure that we're good. But I'll put you guys on a time lapse and get through that, and then I'll show you how we finish it. Alright, we made all our cuts, our initial cuts, just our rough cuts. So now we can put this tool back in, screw it back down, and then we line up our mark again, break this jam nut loose. Since we went 20 here, roughly 20 to 21, we're going to want to go another 10. So it's just 2 big marks. $10 there. I'll bring you guys in here and show you that. So this is the groove that it cuts in here in the cylinder head. I don't know if you can quite see that or not. But these are the marks I'm talking about here. There's this big one here, that's 5, and this one's 1. So if you move it, if you pick it up and go back to this big one, that's another 5. So we just moved it 10. It should be the finishing cut on this, and then we'll put the O-rings in. we got them all done. I'll bring in here and show you this, how I measure these. Bring this up here, set it 0 now. It's going to drop down in that groove. We're right at 32, so we're right on the money. So we'll get this boring bar off, or this jig, and then get the wire out and start cutting them and start putting the wire in the head. So we've gotten all of our wires cut, 6 in total. Here you can see the groove without the jig on it. So this is all the wire is. It's just let me pull up this. It's a 041 stainless spring wire. Put it in here, and then this will seat down in the head gasket. I'll show you the head gasket on where it'll go. So put you on another time lapse and bring you back when we're done. Got them all done, sitting in there all nice and tight. One little trick that my dad taught me was where this joins right here. You can see when I was taking the side cutters and cutting this O-ring, you always want this joint to point towards this outlet, so in case something happens, it leaks, it's going to push coolant out the exhaust side so you can see it. So there's a little bit here, there's a little bit of a blemish. This head's been sitting a while and it had a little bit of surface rust on it, but the machine shop cleaned it up and said it was okay, said it won't hurt anything. So there's really nothing on the outside, it's all in the combustion chamber. So we'll take it home, put the valves in it, and paint it and get it ready to go on. So bring over this is the intake for it. Nice easy fab. It's got all the holes for the map sensor and to mount the rail, all that, and down here in the end it's even got plugs for a nitrous bar. So see if we can ever get him to do that one day. But that'll end it for today, and we'll start back up tomorrow. Moving on to day 3. We got his old head sitting here. We're gonna have to get the retainers and keepers off of these valve springs, and we're gonna reuse these valve springs. These are 110 pound, so we'll reuse them. We got his intake over here, giving it a nice coat of red. Kind of mix things up since the truck's red. But bring you over here and show you. These are the new Manley valves. Haven't figured out, there's 2 different valves in here. There's these that don't have a shiny top to them, and these do. So I'm sure one's intake and one's exhaust. But we got the new valve, or new head, sitting up here on the table. These are the plugs that are going to have to come out. I'm going to pull them out and tap these and put these. This is a kit you can get. These actually came from Hazley. So open these. These are the freeze plugs or the new plugs that'll go in where those freeze plugs were. So get to working on getting these valve springs out and put you on a time lapse and get going. Alright guys, not sure what happened. We actually, when I was tightening this down, I broke one of these bolts, so I've never had that happen, so I don't really know why that happened, but found another one that'll work just to get this off. This tool is a Torque Tech tool. Not really that expensive, and we do sell them at the shop, so if you guys are needing one, you can get with me. These have a exhaust manifold side and an intake side, so they only line up one way. But we'll pop on there like that. Put this in here. Put the nut on. Tighten it down. Sometimes these stick, that's why I decided to do this way. I can just tap this valve and this will come up out of here, maybe. That head might be too tall in that bolt. So, get in here with our magnet, see if we can get these out. Should just come right out. And one. Come on now. Dang, it's too big to reach up in there. That one. That one. Okay, should be it. We'll get set up and start putting these in the new head. Welcome back to day 4. This should be one of the finishing up days. We got all the plugs put in, all them tight. We even got a little paint on it, so it'll look pretty. So we're going to start working on the intake, getting it bolted on. I had to go pick up some Smart TV. This is what we use. It's their gray, the Permatex gray. So it's a little bit stronger than the red or the black. It's not really a high temp, but this shouldn't really need a high temp for being on the intake side. So we'll get started on that and pick you up when we're putting it on. Well guys, end of day 4 and we have a cylinder head on. It's been a long time coming. So we have the cylinder head on, need to finish torquing it, but other than that, we're waiting on Tuesday. We got some new turbo parts coming in from Slosh Fab, and then later on this week we have a return line kit coming from Black Diamond Diesel. You guys ought to check them out too. See if I can find it. They made this turbo drain line kit. It's a really well put together piece. And it really wasn't that expensive for the quality of it. So a little shout out to them, Black Diamond Diesel. If you can get a hold of them and maybe order some parts off of them. So that's going to end this video off, and then we'll start up a new video on finishing this up and first start up and break in and going through a retorque on the cylinder head. So go through and show you what we've done so far. Also, if you guys would please like, share, and subscribe, that'll mean a whole lot so we can try and get this channel going and I can put out more content for you guys and kind of get a broad view of what we do every day. So again, if you will, like, share, and subscribe, and catch you on the next one.